Okay.
Start somewhere, haven't
Yeah, you have got to start somewhere. You're right. You're absolutely right with that. Yeah, good.
So go uni and then after just probably like marketing in a football club.
Okay.
And
Okay. Sports marketing, football. Okay.
Probably
Yeah.
start my own business.
Oh, okay. Go on. Tell us more.
Probably with the stuff I've learned off this course, just try and give it a go and see where it goes.
What's talking to the saying all the right things in front of the gaffer here, aren't you? What sort of business are you thinking?
Not sure yet, but probably just try to be like entrepreneurial and try like come up with an idea or
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. Okay. There's an interesting stat that's been that went round quite a few years ago. Matt will know what I'm talking about. That if you think about young people today, and I'm talking about you guys, right? Round about 60% of the jobs that you end up doing haven't even been invented yet, right? That's how quickly things are changing, right? Gone are the days where you'd sort of go to school, go to college, maybe go to uni, and then you go into a job and you pretty much stay in that job, and it was like a 9-to-5 job, right? The workplace is a completely different place now, isn't it? So, you're talking about coming up with an idea and turning that into a money-making thing. That's what a lot of people are doing. The problem is that there are loads of people like you all trying to come up with ideas, and they're all trying to find ways of making money out of it. So your idea's got to be different, and it's got to be good, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, good. Front row now. What are you going to do after college?
I don't know.
Okay.
Kind of similar to Robbie, but I.
Who's Robbie?
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
I find like within a business, like the merchandising, promotional kind of sectors, I find that very interesting. Like, that's something I'd be interested in being within.
Cool. Good. Next.
No, I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay. Good. And last but not least,
Start my own business.
Start your own business. Can you give us a bit more information without giving away all your trade secrets?
Not got like an idea yet, but I feel like I've got everything else.
Okay, so you're waiting to come up with an idea that's going to help you to make a lot of money. All right. The reason I ask is that life's weird. Life's funny. Life brings up all sorts of things, right? If you told me when I was your age, you're all, 17, 18, anybody 19? So you're all 17, 18, yeah? Okay, all right. So if you told me when I was your age that I would be running a business, I would have probably laughed at you. If you told me when I was your age that I would be in a business where I'd be traveling to more than 100 countries around the world, I'd have laughed at you. If you told me that I was going to be running a business where I'd be talking not just at Notts County, but in front of 4, 5, 6,000 people, right? I'd have probably, pardon my English, but crap myself as well, right? If you told me that I would present on some of the most famous tennis courts in the world and some of the biggest events in the world, I would have certainly laughed at you and asked what drugs you were on. Okay? In other words, there's all sorts of things ahead of us that we don't know about. So whilst I don't think it's a problem, if you're sitting there now and thinking, well, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, that's okay. If in 3, 4, 5 years time you're still thinking, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, that would be a bit of a concern, right? Now, when I was your age, I went to, I'm from London, right, from North London, and that's why I'm a Spurs fan, because you follow your local team, right? So I went to school, I did my GCSEs, did my A-levels, took a year out, not because I didn't know what to do, but I just wanted to do something a bit different. So I worked in London for a year, then I went to university, and in university I studied geography. Why did I study geography? Because I've always believed in doing things you enjoy doing, right? You can spot people a mile away who are in it for the wrong reasons. You can also spot people a mile away who are in it for the right reasons because they've got a real passion and a belief for what they want to do. So if I said to you, right, you're going to end up running a business, but it's in something that you're not that interested in, I'll tell you straight away you're going to struggle, right? So you have got to follow your dreams, you have got to follow your passion, right? You have got to follow the things that you enjoy and that you like and that you believe in. And that's really important, because running a business is not easy. And if every morning you're sort of getting up, or you're going to bed the night before and you think, oh, I really don't think I can do another day of this, nonsense. I can't deal with it, right? The things that are going to get you over the line are your passion and your belief for doing things that you really believe in, right? So a bit like a stick of rock. If we cut you in half, what happens when you break a stick of rock? What's written on the inside, right? Okay, you've got Blackpool or Skegness or wherever it's come from, right? In little letters, right? So if you cut me in half, you'll see my business inside me. If I cut you in half, what's inside you? Where's the passion for what you want to do? That's the thing that's going to drive you forward. So at the moment, it doesn't really matter if you don't know what your business is going to be. However, if you don't know what your interests are, and if you don't know where your passion lies, that would be something that I would say is a red flag, and I'd be starting to think about that quite soon, right? Now, just to follow my life story before we get onto this, because this is all relevant. All of this, by the way, has totally happened by accident. Totally happened by accident. Like I said to you, if I'd done some of the things that I've done, right? If you told me all those things when I was 17, 18, there's no way I would have believed you. So I went to university, I did geography, I got my degree, I had a whale of a time, right? I did a bit of studying, but did a lot of other, let's call it socializing, right? Let's call it socializing. I did a lot of that, right? I had a brilliant time. And my plan was to go into third world aid and development. That's what I thought I was going to do. That I was going to end up working for the United Nations, or I was going to end up working for one of these charities or aid agencies like Save the Children or those type of organisations, right? So if I had my way, I'd probably be somewhere in, I don't know, in West Africa or somewhere, right? I'd probably have caught different tropical diseases. I'd probably be working in aid camps. I probably would be on my own, because it's quite difficult to have a family and kids when you're, out of the country all the time. Right, but none of that happened. And the reason it didn't happen is because even though it's what I wanted to do, I didn't have any experience in it. And there is a life cycle that goes on. When you don't have experience, it's hard to get a job in it. And if you don't have a job in it, it's hard to get the experience. So you end up in that sort of cycle where you get stuck. So the other thing I would say to you straight away is get as much experience in as many different things as you can. I would say at your age, it's not about money. It's not about you getting paid. It's about you going out and doing as many different things as you can. Stepping outside your comfort zone. It's about going out and getting experience, not paid. The first question is not how much you're going to pay me to do it. The first question is, what am I going to learn from it? Who am I going to meet by doing it? What experience am I going to get? Those are the things that matter at your age, right? The money will come later, right? The money to me is never a goal. Right? When people say my goal is to make loads of money, I struggle with that. Right? Money will come if you do other things right. Money to me is not a destination. Money's not a goal. Right? What drives me and gets me up in the morning is doing things like this, or getting out on court with a group of players, or being in front of a group of coaches, or presenting in front of 3,000 people on a stadium court in Australia. That's what gets me up in the morning. Okay? And if I'm good at what I do, people will pay me. And if I'm not, they won't. And I'll have to go and find something else to do. So to me, money is never a goal. The important thing, you've got a long life ahead of you, hopefully, right, is to get as much experience as you can, speak to as many people as you can. Now, everything I'm going to tell you today, right, there is one current or recurring theme, one thing that keeps happening over and over again, right? And it's about chance conversations. It's people you meet along the way where I've had a conversation with them over a coffee or a beer or a conversation in the car or whatever, and that conversation has turned into something. So when I tell you in a minute about my sort of career path, once I got into this tennis business, right, you'll see that actually a lot of it was about people I met along the way, where they then said, oh, well, if ever you think you want to do something a little bit different or whatever, give me a shout. Yeah? And, morning. And that's the key thing, is give me a shout. And do you know what I've always done? I've said, all right, Matt, you say give me a shout, 6 months' time, I'm going to put your business card or I'm going to put your contacts in my phone. I'm going to hold you to that. If I need you in 6 months' time, I'm going to give you a shout. I'm going to see if you're for real, right? And pretty much every time when I've got in touch with somebody and I've said to them, do you remember that conversation we had 6 months ago? And they go, yeah. I say, right, well, now I'm calling you because now I'm free. Well, now I'm ready to do something. Okay, let's meet up for a beer. Let's meet up for a coffee. Let's meet up for a chat, right? And so many of the things that I've ended up doing have come from that. It's not by sending out thousands of CVs to loads of people. It's not by putting my stuff on social media, because as you'll find out later, social media wasn't around when we started all this, right? I know that's difficult for you guys to believe, but there was a world before the internet, right? And there was a world before the social media, okay? And so it wasn't because of that. It's all about contacts and connections. So my first piece of advice is get out, right? Get out into the world, get out into Nottingham, or get out of Nottingham and go and see the rest of the UK. Go and see people, go and see things. Throw yourself in at the deep end, whatever your passion is, right? If it's in marketing, get in touch with some local marketing agencies and say, I'd like to do a week during the Easter holidays. I don't want to be paid, I just want to get experience. I want to get involved in as many different things as possible. I want to learn from it, right? And people will go, all right, okay, that's interesting. Because normally the first thing that people want out of me is money, right? So let's see if this guy's for real. Okay, be at the front door 9 o'clock Monday morning, I'll see you then, and then we'll go through things, right? It's a bit like the old apprentices in football clubs. Do you know what the apprentices used to do in football clubs? They don't anymore. Clean boots. That's what they used to do. And clean the dressing room floor for the pros. That's what they used to do. And they were paid like paper round type money. But what they did was that they were involved in an environment where they could look at the next step on the ladder. They could look at the next rung on the ladder and think, I'm down here now, I'm cleaning this guy's boots. But actually, I want to be that guy. So if I clean the boots and I do that really well, and I stay there and I work hard, and I take those chances when they come, I might not be cleaning boots anymore, but I might be managing the guys who are cleaning the boots. And then I might be involved in something else. And then other people will start talking about me and say things like, if you notice that guy there, he works really hard. He's always the last one out. He's always the first one in. He always listens. It might be worth having a chat with him, you know. Might be worth having a little conversation with him and seeing if we can help him. That's how things happen, right? So it doesn't matter that you don't know what you want to do right now. What matters is that you start putting yourself out there, and I promise you, things will happen. I promise you, things will happen. One thing's guaranteed. If you lay stretched out on the sofa all day, watching daytime TV and on the Xbox and on your phone, nothing's going to happen. You'll get what you deserve, frankly, right? But if you work hard and you try and take opportunities, a lot of those opportunities won't happen or won't materialise. What do? You go back for more. Okay, we're in a football club. So let's use an analogy with the striker. What does the striker do if he misses the first golden chance to score, right? Does he run off the pitch in tears? No, he puts himself up there again, tries to get his leg on or his foot on the next cross, or his head on the next cross that comes in. And sooner or later, if he's in the right place at the right time, he'll start scoring goals and he'll gain confidence from that. And the more confidence he gains, the more people will start thinking, oh, we need him in the team, or her. Yeah? And we're going to start building the team around them. He's the first name, or she, on the team sheet. Let's put them down, right? And then they start talking about you. And then they start talking about money. We've got to give this guy a contract. We've got to give this guy a new contract. We've got to make sure we secure this guy's future, right? Let's pay him more money. That's how it works, by taking your chances. So there's a lot of that in all of this. Anyway. I must apologise. I am a talker, and I'm quite passionate about what I do, right? And I'm apologising for it, but I do go off on one a little bit sometimes. Okay, I do go off on a little bit. So sometimes I have to sort of rein myself back in. We haven't even got onto the first slide yet. Anyway, I am the founder and the director and owner of a company called Inspire to Coach. Right, so I'm a tennis coach. That's basically what I do. Right, when I go out for dinner or places with my wife, and I meet some of her friends, and they say, "So what do you do?" I think, "Oh no, really? Can I really be bothered to explain all this?" Sometimes I just wish I could say, "Look, I'm an accountant," and they go, "Okay, yeah, whatever." Okay, right, or I'm a school teacher. Oh, right, okay, yeah, whatever. But I say to them, I'm a tennis coach, and then they start saying, "Oh, you do this," and then I think, okay, my poor wife, she's heard this story 1,000 times, and they start asking me all sorts of questions about stuff. But that's what I do. I am a tennis coach first and foremost, right? So,
Not working? Let's have a look. Ah,
have we? Has it
No,
gone to
it
sleep?
right now. Should work.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Nice one. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so in the UK, there are 5 levels of coach education. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Level 1 is at the bottom, 5 is at the top. So I'm a level 5 coach, right? I've been in tennis since university. Actually, I started playing tennis in a club in North London when I was about 10, 11 years old, right? I played to like junior national standard. I wasn't great. I soon realised that I wasn't going to make any money out of tennis, okay? And as I've told you, my plan was to do something else in aid and development, right? However, it soon became clear to me when I left university that that wasn't going to happen. And the first person I've got to thank for where I am actually is my bank manager, right? It's not often we thank our bank manager, but the bank manager one day sent me a nasty letter, right? And it basically said, "Mark, you've had a really good time at university. You've spent a lot of my money on kebabs and beer and nightclubs and stuff like that, and now I want my money back. So get your act together, come and see me, and tell me how you're going to pay back the money that you've borrowed from the bank, an overdraft." So I thought, oh shoot, right, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this. So I thought, right, the only legal thing that I know about to go and earn some money pretty quickly, there's lots of illegal things you can do, but the only legal thing I know about in terms of earning some money is tennis coaching. So I thought, right, I'm going to start doing some tennis lessons in the local park. So I went to go and see the guy at the local authority about hiring some courts, set up a program. It started to go really well. It built up from there. Before I knew it, the program was expanding and so on and so forth, right? So I've got 35 years of coaching experience. Okay, I've done quite a lot of coaching over the years. Okay, kids, adults. I've never been one of those players that's like sat in the players box at Wimbledon, because I'm not what they call a high performance coach. I just work with crap players. That's what most players are, right? Okay. And actually what I believe in is that sport is a really good vehicle. This is why we're all here, right? Sport is a really good way of making something of your life. Okay? And Matt will know that as well. So I'm also the founder and director of Coach Central International. Right now, I'm going to explain what this all means to you in a minute, because you're thinking, well, but you just wait a minute, but you just said that you're a director of another company a minute ago. Now you're right. Okay, I'll explain that in just a second. My background, my specialism is in coach education. So when people ask me, when I go out for dinner with my wife and they say, "So what do you do?" And my wife goes, "Oh no, not this again." Right? I say I'm a tennis coach. I train tennis coaches. "Oh, you train tennis coaches?" "Oh yeah, okay." That's what I do. I train tennis coaches, right? In the UK and all over the world. People who are coming into coaching for the very first time. So maybe you guys, if ever you're thinking, you want to go and do, it's not a hard sell about tennis. I'm just thinking, you're young guys, you might be thinking, I want to do some coaching badges in the future, right? So we would work with people like you. We also work with people who have been in coaching for a long time, and we work with people who are quite experienced and well-established coaches in different places around the world. So that's what I basically do, okay? So I'm a conference presenter, a speaker, Okay, I'm a consultant, right? In other words, I go in and I help people. Okay, and yeah, I get paid for it. Okay, because that's what you're getting, is you're getting my expertise, but you're getting my experience as well. Okay, so I go in and help people. I go in and help clubs. I go in and help facilities. I go in and help businesses. I go in and help tennis federations. Right, so the tennis federation, a bit like the FA in this country, the Football Association. Right, so tennis has the Lawn Tennis Association in this country, which is the governing body for tennis and paddle tennis in the UK. So every country pretty much around the world has its own tennis federation. So I will go in and help tennis federations to sort their stuff out if that's what they want, right? So, and I'm also a mentor, which means that I work with people, young people and old people, on a one-to-one basis. Yesterday, I had a session with a guy that I've been working with for about 6 months. He's a junior doctor. So I don't just work with tennis coaches, right? I work with a guy who is a junior doctor down in Devon, right? And I don't know anything about medicine, right? But it doesn't mean I can't help him, because what I'm helping him with is how to basically manage the stress of life and work and that work-life balance. So I help people. That's what I do. Right? I've taken a lot from my sport. My sport has given me a lot, and I'm now at a stage where I want to give back and I want to do things. Yeah? So the other thing I think you've got to do if you ever want to run your own business is not just take, but you've got to learn to give. And the hard thing sometimes is when you're having a crap day, right? Okay? And you've still got to give to other people. You've got to put other people before you. And that's hard. Right? When you run your business, right, if you all work for me, who gets paid first, me or you? You. You guys get paid before I do. That's part of what it means to run a business. If I run a business and we are struggling financially, right, and there's only £1,000 to go, right, I don't know how many people, I'm not going to do the maths, but let's say I'm going to give you all 100 quid each because that's all I can afford. What does that leave me with? Nothing. Well, that's part of the cost of running your own business. So you've got to be used to, and you've got to be willing to give a lot if you're going to run your own business. It can't just be all take. Not everybody who runs a business drives a Rolls Royce and has a yacht in the Mediterranean and a private jet and all the rest of it. Okay? In the real world, it's not as glamorous as that, I can assure you. Okay? As I've said, I've worked in over 100 countries around the world. I get through passports pretty quickly. Because a lot of countries need a visa that fills up a page and then you get lots of stamps. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, but I travel a lot. Okay, at the weekend on Friday, actually, I'm off to Romania for a few days. Okay, for some workshops. Then I come back for a few days. Then 10 days later, I'm off to Egypt for a week. Then I come back, and then I'm going to Nigeria for a week. Right, so I travel a lot. That's part of my life, and my wife and my son are also very patient with me in that respect as well. But that's part of what puts food on the table and pays the bills. It's unfortunately, if you decide to marry me, then that's what you're also marrying the work. That's also part of the deal, unfortunately. Okay. Before we set up this business, I used to work for the International Tennis Federation. So a lot of you will know FIFA, okay, right? The world governing body for football, right? So the ITF is the International Tennis Federation. It's the world governing body for tennis. So I used to work for the ITF in London. I also used to work for the British Tennis Federation, which is called the Lawn Tennis Association, also in London, okay? And I've presented in conferences in more than 80 countries, including worldwide coaches conferences around the world, Grand Slam conferences. So there are Grand Slam nations, UK, France, Australia, and the US. Okay, so I've presented on some big stadium courts in front of quite big audiences and lots of coaches from around the world. So I've done quite a bit. I'm not finished yet, so don't write me off just yet, but that's kind of where I've got to. So the other thing, when I run my business and people say, how much do you charge? I say, well, hang on a minute, hang on. you're not just getting an hour of my time, right? You're getting 35 years of my experience. That's what you're getting. Okay? You're not just getting my 1 hour. You're getting 35 years of me having done all of this. You're getting the fact that I went through a divorce. I'm not going to go into all of that anymore, right? Okay? And that I'm away from home a lot. That I've got a lot of early mornings. And that I've got a lot of late nights. You're getting the fact that I've got to pay my staff before I pay myself. That's what you're getting as well. Yeah? So don't apologise for charging money. Just be good at it. Just be good at it. Be professional. Be humble. Just be serious about what you're doing. And if you're good, people will pay. I promise you. Okay? So, that's a little introduction. So the plan for today, warts and all, in other words, I'm not going to hold back on some of this. I'm going to be honest with you because it's not all, like I said, it's not all private jets and yachts and stuff like that. Okay? It is about the hard yards. It is about hard yards, a lot of hard yards. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the background, a little bit of the evolution of the business, talk to you about the current business. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the lessons I've learned along the way, okay? And then, as I said, there's also going to be a little bit of group activity, a few simple group activities where I'm going to pair you up or put you in little groups just to do a few things. Nothing too difficult, but just to break things up a little bit as well. And then there's going to be time for questions. So if I say anything or you hear anything that you think is interesting, okay? Maybe there'll be nothing interesting, I don't know. But if there is, just make a note of it in your head or write it down on your phone and then we'll have a little break halfway through and you can ask some questions if you want. And Matt, also same thing, if you've got any questions you want to ask on their behalf or on yours, then just shout. Okay? Right, so let me just explain how this business actually works. So, Inspire to Coach. Okay, first of all, I actually don't like the name, right? But it's not just my business. You can't always have what you like, right? It's quite possible. I don't know the guy who owns McDonald's anymore, but it's quite possible that he doesn't like burgers, right? You don't have to like every single bit of everything that you do. You don't have to. It helps, but you don't have to. I don't like that name particularly, okay? But we're too far gone now to change it and it's too complicated. So Inspire to Coach is the parent company, right? The parent company. It's a bit like Virgin, right? You all know Virgin, right? What do you know Virgin for? Virgin Airlines. What other Virgin?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Keep going.
Train.
Virgin Trains. Keep going.
Virgin Cola.
Cola. Yeah. Keep going.
Holidays?
Virgin Holidays. I'm not sure about. Maybe through the airline. Yeah. Go on.
TV network.
Is there a? You're a better man than me. Maybe there's Virgin Bank, right?
Yeah.
Virgin Money. Yeah. So in other words, Virgin is like the parent company,
Jim.
isn't? Right,
There's one
Jim.
in
There you
London,
go.
isn't
There you go, Jim. Yeah. So Virgin is the parent company, and then you've got all of these subsidiaries, which are all independent businesses, but they're all under the Virgin brand. Do you get that? Right. So this is the parent company, and then underneath are subsidiaries. So we have 5 subsidiaries, right? We've got Coach Central UK. This is a coach education business. It makes money by running programs to train tennis coaches in the UK. We've got Coach Central International. It makes money by training coaches and running conferences and events for coaches outside the UK in the rest of the world. We've got Now Tennis. Now Tennis runs tennis programs and tennis clubs in the UK. We have 33 clubs that we run across the Midlands. They're not all like big places like Nottingham Tennis Centre. Some of them are smaller outdoor clubs, right? Some of them are big facilities. We have our office at the University of Warwick in Coventry. That's where our office is. That's where we've got our training centre and our indoor and outdoor courts. So that's a bigger facility. So that's Now Tennis, right? And we have about 2,500, just under 2,500 kids and adults going through our programs every week, right? Okay, so that's Now Tennis. We've also got Safety First. Safety First is a first aid training company. It runs training courses, emergency first aid at work, not just for tennis, not just for sport, for anybody, right? So a couple of weeks ago, for example, we ran a first aid at work course for a local church leadership team group in Gloucestershire. On Monday, we've got a first aid course that we're doing for a small business, also actually in Gloucestershire, that designs gas and water underground pipes. Really boring stuff, but that's not the point. The point is that we run first aid training courses for basically anybody who wants or needs a first aid qualification. And then we've got Tennis 24/7. Tennis 24/7 is and used to be an online learning business. It's failed, right? It still exists, but it failed. And that's the other thing, is that businesses change. That's going to be one of the other messages. Am I embarrassed about that it failed? No. Okay. There is an argument to say that if you haven't failed in things, you haven't tried, right? So another thing is get used to failure before you get used to success, right? We talked about Virgin. Okay, Richard Branson went bust, went bankrupt a couple of times, right? It's very, very common. In fact, it's almost essential that you go bankrupt or that you struggle before you succeed. You are not going to go from like getting up in the morning, first million, second million, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, billionaire, right? It doesn't work like that. You struggle, you go bust. You get up, you go again. Round two, ding, ding. You go into the ring again. You try again with a different business. You get some different backers, some different lenders. You try again. It fails. You pick yourself up again, into the ring again. Round three, ding, ding. You go again. It starts to work, right? That's how it works. So you have to fail before you're going to succeed. But Tennis 24/7 does still exist as a company, right? But it doesn't do online learning anymore. Okay, but basically now runs tennis competition and competition programs. So those are the 5 subsidiaries, the 5 businesses that make up Inspire to Coach. I'm a director of all 5. Okay, I'm a director and an owner of all 5 of the businesses. 95% of my time is spent here, here, and here in these 3, right? 95% of my time is spent in these 3. I hardly have anything to do with those 2 at all. I've got a big interest in them because they're part of what pays my bills. So I have to be interested in them. But we have people who do all of that. I don't do that myself. So there's a big team of people behind that does it. Okay? So, just a few little facts and figures. Okay, I thought about how much I should give you and how much I should tell you and how much I shouldn't. Okay, so we are what is called a limited company, right? Okay, so when you see a company and then it says PLC after it, that's a public limited company. That means it's on the stock market in London, for example, right? A limited company where it's got LTD written, you all know all this. Right, sorry, so forgive me if I'm telling you stupid things.
It's a
right?
good recap though.
Okay,
Good,
right, so we're a limited company. So that basically means that we have to register our business at Companies House. We have to follow the rules and the guidelines for directors. If anything goes wrong, potentially, yeah, I can end up in jail for, you know, running the business in a bad way. And there are plenty of company directors that have been in jail for mishandling the money of the business and doing all sorts of things they shouldn't do, but we're a limited company. So all 5 of those are actually limited companies.
Separate.
They're all separate companies. They've all got their own budgets. They've all got their own brands. We are working through them all having their own websites. The change only came in the last sort of year or so it's taken a while and it costs a lot of money to do it. So there are 2 directors. There's me and then my business partner, Richard Marklow, who's currently in China, okay? And we both have a 50% share. So between us, everything is on us, right? Everything is on us. Fortunately, we get on very well. So we've never had an issue, okay? Sometimes people say you're actually better off having an odd number of directors because when you have to make a hard decision, you want to go one way or the other. We've never had that problem. We've managed to always talk things through and be able to solve stuff just with the two of us. Okay. However, there is a possibility in the future that we might bring on another director. Okay, and that might mean that we have to sell a share of the business to them if they want to become a shareholder in the business, because at the moment Rich and I have got a 50% share each. Okay, and it might be that we have to both sell or give up 5% or 10% of our business to another person. That might be something that we want to do. Okay. As I've told you, we've got 33 clubs. We don't own the clubs. We don't own the clubs. I wish we did own the land, but we don't. But we own the contracts for delivery of the programs. Okay? We've got a team of around about 55 tennis coaches, administrators, managers, support staff, okay, who work for us remotely, some of them at the university, okay, and so they are working in those 5 businesses that I told you. Most of them are in the business that was over here called Now Tennis, because that's the coaching part of the business, and that's where, so I would say probably 40 or so of those are in Now Tennis, right? And then the others are either within different businesses or work across several businesses, okay? Almost all of the coaches are self-employed, and there's some reasons for that. A lot of it's to do with cost, okay? It is very, very expensive to employ people these days. So if you are going to go into business, one of the things you're going to have to think about is who's going to help you, because you can run your business on your own, and there are lots of people that have been very successful, okay? But at some point you might need to scale it up, or you might want to grow your business, and at that point you might want to think about whether you're going to take somebody else on. And then you've got to have a think about how you're going to pay them and what the sort of the arrangement is going to be, and whether they're going to be employed or self-employed. Employing people these days is expensive, and it's also difficult when you get into the legal stuff with them. I'll talk to you a little bit more about some of that as we go. Okay, turnover. Let's say we're turning over £2 million a year. Okay, that's not huge. It might sound like a lot. That doesn't mean 2 million quid goes in my pocket. I wish it did. It certainly doesn't mean that, right? But that's what we're turning over 2 million. I won't go into any more detail on that. That's not profit. That's turnover, right? And you'll get the idea between profit and turnover. Okay, and there is a phrase that you might be familiar with. Matt will know it. Okay, that turnover is vanity. Have you heard this?
Go on.
Turnover is vanity. Profit is sanity. Right? In other words, turnover, you can say, oh yeah, well, we turn over 2 million quid a year. Yeah, but you're not making any money. Okay? Profit, that's the interesting stuff, because that's the stuff that goes in your pocket. That's the bit that allows you to be able to go on holiday. That's the bit that allows you to be able to buy nice things. So it's all very well making turnover, but you've also got to make profit. There are lots of businesses. Let's look at this business. I don't know the finances. I could easily find out. You could easily go on the company's house, because this will be a limited company, Notts County, right? And they will have a turnover of however many million quid. I would be amazed. In fact, I'd almost put my life on it that they're not making any money, that they're not making any profit, right? So it's not about how much money you make, it's how much profit you can make out of the money you make, right? You could actually have a better business if you make 10 quid and you keep 8 of it, than if you make £1 million quid, but you're actually losing 500,000 a year, right? And making profit's not easy, okay? These are our commercial partners. Now, there are other partners that we work with as well, but these are kind of like our commercial partners. So Adidas are our kit suppliers. So all of our kit, all of our shoes, all of that stuff comes from Adidas. My wife rolls her eyes when I come back with another bag, a load of kit. She goes, not more kit, okay? But part of the problem is the fact that because we've got 5 businesses and they've all got to have different branding, so that also is part of the reason. Then we've got Head. If you know your tennis, Head are a quite well-established company, so they provide all of our tennis rackets and tennis balls, okay? We have a partnership with Foss, who are a company that make tennis court surfaces and surfaces for different sports. And then Wither Sports, who are based not far from here actually, who are sports suppliers through which Adidas and Head and various other things come from as well. So they're like our commercial partners, okay? I'd love to say we've got Bentley or Aston Martin on there as well, but we haven't, okay? We haven't, yeah? And so these are some of the relationships that we have to work on. I don't particularly get that close to all of this. We've got a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, who deals with all of these relationships on our behalf. We just get updates and then we get, you know, hopefully the good news from what comes from these partnerships. But that's dealt with by somebody on our behalf. Okay, so I just want to share with you a period of time, the last 5 years. We're now in 2026. I want to share with you the vision that we've had for the last 5 years, right? So you're all familiar with mission statements and stuff like that, goals, visions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we've had mission statements in the past. The problem is with mission statements is that they just end up being words on a sheet of paper or on a presentation, and then you don't actually follow them. And actually, we had a team training day the other day, and we brought all our staff together just as a bit of a reset, ready for the summer term when it comes. And we just asked if anybody could remember what the vision was, and nobody knew it. I mean, that tells you all, right? It is great to have a focus, but if it's something that you don't live and breathe every day, then actually there's no point having it. So we've got 3 different aims, 3 different goals, right? The first one is, and this is for the last 5 years, this is what our focus has been on. To be a recognised, internationally leading tennis services provider, right? Tennis services. So that means coaching, playing, training, facilities, online learning, right? Anything that helps people who are in tennis or to get into tennis. And we want to be internationally recognised for that in the UK and around the world. Okay, so that's goal number 1. Number 2 is that we want to be a company of choice to work for within the industry. We want people to be saying to us, oh, you know those guys at Inspired to Coach or Coach Central, they're good guys. I'd love to get a job with you. Right? Funny enough, on the way up this morning, I had a phone call from a guy who rang me up randomly, and he said, have you got any jobs going? I've heard a lot about you. Yeah? Okay. So happens we haven't for what he wants. But my first question was not really to talk about, you know, what sort of job you're looking for, but the first thing I was interested in is, have you heard about us? He said, oh, loads of people talk about you. I don't really know where I heard about you, but I've heard your name quite a lot, right? Just the other day, I was down in Wimbledon, not at Wimbledon, right, but in Wimbledon Park. We were doing an event there, and there were some local coaches there, and I was chatting to one of them, and he said, "Oh, I've got a couple of questions, but I've got to go. Are you happy for me to have your number? Can I WhatsApp you?" And I said, "Yeah, fine." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Mark." Right? He said, "Yeah, okay, Mark what?" I said, "Mark Tennant." And he said, "You're Mark Tennant?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh man, I've heard loads about you." I said, "Right, okay, let's stop there just in case it's all bad news, right?" But so, you know, we want to be a company of choice. We want people to say, "I'd love to work for you one day," right? Because that says a lot about you, doesn't it? As people and as a business, right? Think about the opposite. Oh, I don't want to work for that bunch of jokers. Cool, work for them, you've got to be joking. Yeah? That's not good, is it? So we want to be a company of choice for people to work to work for within the industry. And finally, and I'm not embarrassed to say this because I think sometimes in the UK we're a bit embarrassed to talk about money and profit. Okay, but we need to become more profitable. What does making profit allow you to do? Any question? Any thoughts? What does making profit allow you to do? Being profitable, yeah.
Like live and survive.
Live and survive, which is always helpful, isn't it? Yeah, it helps you to live and survive. Yeah, go on.
Reinvest back into the business. And help.
Well done. It allows you to be able to reinvest in the business. So when people say to me, well, your website's not very good, and they're right, I'm embarrassed by our website. Okay? Now, if we were making tons and tons of profit, we'd be able to put a share of that profit into a website. Getting a website built is flipping expensive. Right? And it's not just building it, it's maintaining it. And there's a lot of hidden costs behind it to keep it maintained. Right? Now, I'm not saying we can't afford it, but you do get what you pay for. You do get what you pay for. Right? So, making profit allows you to be able to reinvest. What else does it allow you to be able to do? Anything else? I saw a hand go up here a minute ago. What else does making profit allow you to do? Think about people.
Well, you can like give what's it called? At the end of the year, if you've got like leftover profit, you can give it back to like the staff.
Yep. You can give them a bonus.
Yeah,
give them a nice little Christmas present. Yeah. Or, I mean, you're right, 100% right. You can just pay them more, can't you? Right? You can just pay them more. Not everybody is interested in more money. It's a bit of a fallacy. Not everybody is driven or motivated by money. It's interesting the things that people are motivated by. People are motivated by working for a company they want to work with. Right? People are motivated by getting some free kit. People are motivated by getting a business card with their name on it and some snazzy title. Right? My colleague Rich, just before Christmas, working with one of our coaches, and he had some targets to achieve. And Rich said to him, right, if you get your target, what's going to really drive you on to this target? And he said, do you know what? Do you know what I'd really love? Right, I'm a Newcastle United fan. Okay, I'd love to go and see a home game. I've never been to St James's Park. And he said, right, you hit your target, I'll take you to St James's Park and we'll go to a football match. Right, and he did it. And he's never stopped talking about it since. So it is a fallacy to think that it's all about money. People, more than anything, want to feel like they belong. They want to feel part of something, and they want to be made to feel good about themselves. They go, look at me and my new kit. Look at me sitting at St James's Park. You know, put all that on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah? Oh, how cool's that? Oh, amazing. How'd you get that? Oh, my company bought it for me. Oh, amazing. My company never does anything for me. 10 years ago, we had a Christmas do. We had a silent disco. My wife's a teacher. She works at quite a high-end school in Oxford now, but she used to work in a state school. And she still goes on about this silent disco like being the best thing she ever did. And she still talks about the fact, I can't believe your company pays for wives and girlfriends to go to a silent disco, right? Well, wives and girlfriends have to put up with a lot, and husbands as well, right? And partners have to put up with a lot, don't they? Right? When I'm away, yeah, I'm not much good to my wife. Unfortunately, she might say I'm not much good to her even when I'm at home, but that's another story, right? So making profit allows you to be able to pay people and to be able to do nice things for people, to take them away for a weekend, buy them a little Christmas present or a token or something, whatever it is. Those sort of things also matter. It also allows you to be able to buy specialists, because as your business grows, you can't do everything yourself. You need specialists who are going to be able to do things, right? So the people that will do our social media, for example, that's another area we're rubbish at, okay, are very different to the people who might do the accounts, and very different to the people who do the coaching, and very different to the people who will go and sit in a meeting to negotiate a contract with our partners. You need different skill sets, like you do for a football team, right? Not everybody can be Harry Kane. Somebody's got to pass the ball to Harry Kane. Somebody's got to stop the ball going in the net on the other side. Not everybody can get the glory all the time. So there's got to be a lot of foot soldiers and pot washers. Not everybody can be front of house. Not everybody can be, oh, look at me getting all the glory, right? So we need to be able to pay people, and we need to be able to pay for specialists as well. So there's a lot of benefits. Going down the profitable route, making money, doesn't just mean, thank you very much, that's another wad of cash in my pocket. Doesn't mean that at all. So those are our aims. Now we've also got 3 pillars, 3 things that we try and live and breathe by every day. Okay? We need to be focused. If you're going to be good at what you do, especially if you've got different businesses, it is difficult to stay focused on things, right? So we need to know what are the things, the important things that are more important than the other stuff. So me going to a meeting to talk about stuff which isn't important is probably not a good use of my time, right? Focusing on the areas of the business that make money is important. Focusing on the areas of the business that don't make money could be important because they should be making money, or it could be that they're not important because they don't really need to make money. So being focused, and that's really hard when you've got 5 different businesses, because one minute it's a phone call from a coach who wants this or that, and the next minute it's somebody wanting a first aid course, and then the next minute it's somebody who's talking about tennis court surfaces, right? So it's difficult to be focused. My day is divided up into all sorts of different things. I can honestly tell you, I've never ever had 2 work days that have been the same, ever. Right? And you think about some people who go to work and they work in a factory, right? And all they do is just do the same thing, and there's like a conveyor belt of stuff going past them the whole day. And then they do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or you think about some of these people who just sit in an office and they just go like this all day. Right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Right? Every single minute of every day is completely different from me. Now that's brilliant and it's interesting, but it's also challenging because it means I have to be really focused on the things that are important to me, and we have to make sure that our staff are focused on the things that are important to them. So focus is really important for us. Knowing what are the important things and then focusing our time and our energy and our money in those areas. The second thing is about basics. We need to do the basics well. Things like getting back to people, replying to emails, returning phone calls. I have this really big thing about doing what we say we're going to do. Don't tell me you're going to do something and then don't do it. If you say you're going to do it, do it. And if you tell me you're going to do it today, don't do it tomorrow, do it today. And if you tell me you're going to get it to me by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, do it by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Right? Do the basics. Do the basics. It is not difficult. It's just about treating people professionally, with respect, doing things the right way, and just doing the simple things well. Okay? Fundamentally, our business is about kids and adults being on a tennis court and going to have fun. And it's about coaches coming onto our courses. So what are the basics? We need to plan loads of courses. We need to market them. We need to deliver them well. And make sure everybody has a good time. Now, if we do those things often enough and well enough, we'll make money. Right? So it's important to know what the basics of your business are. What are the basics? Get those right, okay, and your business will do well. And then the final thing is culture. Culture is about people. Having positive people. You're going to spend more time at work than you are asleep. Most of us are anyway. Okay? You're going to spend somewhere around about 45% of your working life, maybe more, maybe 50% of your working life, of your life at work. If you don't like the business that you're working in, just think about the fact that you're going to spend more time in this business, in this job that you hate, than you're going to be spending asleep, right? So culture, the people you work with, is really important as well. So it's important that you enjoy going to work. It's important that you have fun going to work. I didn't have to come to Notts County, right? And Matt very quickly said to me, mate, we're not paying you for today. We can't pay you. I couldn't give a stuff about the money. I'm doing this because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. That's why I'm doing it. I could have easily said, nah, I don't fancy that. It's not worth my time. Or what, you're not going to pay me? I'm not coming then. But that's not what we're about. Because money, and this is part of our culture, money is not the goal. Right? Money is not the goal. Money is an outcome. It will come if we do these things well. Right? So hire good people. Be a good person yourself. Do the simple things well. Spend your time with good people. Have fun. Be professional. Work hard. And your business will thrive. May not be easy, but it will thrive. So these are the things that we spend our time focusing on, thinking about, and trying to be when we're at work. Okay? Right, let me just go into a bit of background into the business. Right? We started back in 2007. We're coming up to nearly 20 years. Right? I have to pinch myself sometimes to think about it. We have to go back nearly 20 years to the way we started. And it actually started as a result of a chance conversation. Do you remember I said at the beginning that I'm a really big believer in these conversations that you have with somebody and they say something like, oh, well, we should try that. Or, you know, if you've got, give me a call or whatever, right? So this is the first one of these. So Rich and I were driving up to Leeds. Rich is my business partner, the other owner. We were driving up to Leeds. We weren't working together at that time. We knew each other, but we weren't working together at that time. And we were just chatting about the fact that he was the director of tennis at what is now David Lloyd in Coventry, okay? And he was looking for a career change. I was looking to move on from what I was doing at the International Tennis Federation. I was also in that space where I was sort of looking to do my own thing. I was thinking maybe about setting up my own business and so on and so forth, right? So it's true to say, Inspired to Coach was born out of that conversation on the way up to Leeds. And then on the way back, driving back from Leeds 2 days later, back to Birmingham, we basically put the nuts and bolts of it together. So on the way there, right, up the M1, it was like blue sky. Oh, we should do this, or we could do that, or we could do this, or we could do that. Or why don't we do that? Oh, I'd be really interested in that, right? And then on the way back, it was right. That conversation, have you any more thoughts about it? Yeah. And then by the time we got back to Birmingham, we probably had like 5 hours in the car, there and back. Within 5 hours, we'd formed the business and we were good to go. Right, so that's how it started, chance conversation. If I'd said at the time, nah, I'm not sure about that, or let me think about it, okay, which is code for I'm not that interested, okay, it's like we'll see. My son always used to say to me, Dad, when you say we'll see, that basically means no, I'm not stupid, right? If I'd said to Rich, yeah, let me think about it a little bit, he would have probably gone off and done his own thing. I would have missed the boat. I wouldn't be here with you today. I wouldn't have travelled to more than 100 countries and done some of the stuff that I'd be doing. I don't know what I'd be doing. But it might be that I'm thinking back to that conversation and thinking, I wonder what would happen if I'd said yes to Rich at that point. If you're familiar with a film called Sliding Doors, it's one of those moments, right? If you don't know Sliding Doors, it's quite an old film now, but basically it's about two stories. It's about this guy who either gets on the tube and the sliding doors of the train in London, right? Or he doesn't quite make it. And then like one of the stories is he meets this woman on the tube, right? And his life goes this way, all right? But in the other one, he doesn't quite make it. The doors slide, he doesn't meet this woman, and his life goes off in a different direction. Brilliant film, right? But we have so many of these sliding doors moments. And Richard Branson always would say, if you've got an idea, or if somebody says something that feels like a good idea, or they give you something, or they offer it, take it, worry about it later, worry about how it's going to work later, but just do it, commit to it, give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? It goes wrong. Okay. You dust yourself down, you get back up again. So fortunately I did say yes, and that's how the business was formed. So originally we were a coach education business. Okay, pretty much everything we did. Remember, we've got 5 businesses now, and a part of what we do is about training coaches, but a lot of it is about working with children and adults who are not tennis coaches, they're just players, right? So originally we were a coach education business, And our clubs were an insurance policy because we knew we were drawing down money from government for this stuff. And we know that whenever you're involved in anything with the government, that things can change like that. So we thought, what if this goes wrong? What if we're not allowed to run these courses anymore? Or what if it doesn't become profitable to run these courses? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take on some coaching contracts just in case. So we've got a backup plan for our business, just in case it goes wrong. Okay? The next stage was that we tried and failed to diversify. We've always been a tennis business, but we decided early on that we would start trying to get involved in training football coaches. Rich and I did a couple of courses early on with football coaches, and it didn't work, right? Didn't work because although we're football fans, right, you've also got to feel your business a little bit, right? And there were so many other competitors doing the same thing that within a couple of months we knew that it wasn't worth our time. So that is a good example of that focus I was talking about. So we lost our focus really early on at the beginning. We lost our focus. We started to think, oh, we could do this and we could go off here and we could go off there and do all these things. No. Go back to what you believe in. Go back to what you're good at. Go back to what you know and stick to it. Yeah? So there was the first example of loss of focus. So our attempt at going into training football coaches didn't work. It was good fun, but it didn't work. Then, in the run-up to COVID, we started to see that our club programs were actually starting to become bigger than our coach education program. They were both growing, but the coach education was doing this, and the clubs were doing that. We were taking on more clubs, more coaches, we were making more money out of it. So more of our attention was going into this than in this bit. Okay, and we were spending a lot of time and putting a lot of resource into that. And that's okay, because we've also got to be, what was the third hexagon along here? It's about being profitable. You've got to be focused, but you've also got to go where the opportunities are and where the money is, right? And there was money in here, but there was more money and more opportunity in this. So we had to find a new focus and pivot a little bit towards new programs, new opportunities. I told you that we tried online learning through Tennis 24/7. Didn't work. We learned very quickly that it is a minefield. You have to be really good. If you're going to be online, you've got to be in it literally 24/7, as the business says, right? You've got to be really on it, and you've got to have people who really know what they're doing. And you've got to spend an awful lot of time taking an awful lot of video, and you need editors, and you need people who are going to put this stuff together. And then you've got to have people who've got to run the site for you. We needed specialists. We weren't in that place. We were too small for that. We weren't ready for it. So again, we kind of lost our focus, trying to go after new opportunities, but it didn't work. So there's two fails, right? Two fails. Football, fail. Okay? Online learning, fail. Funny enough, we have now gone back to online learning, and we have another online learning site, which I also run, okay, which is working. So we've gone back to it, like 15 years, 10 years later, and we've learned from it, and we've gone back to it. And then the final thing is the international business. Now, as you know from my background working at the International Tennis Federation, I've always had an understanding of what the tennis world looks like around the world. That's always been something that's been quite interesting to me. I love traveling, I love different cultures, I love seeing different places. Okay, been very fortunate to see some amazing places. Okay, and so this is a big opportunity for us, and we're growing quite quickly in this area, which is exciting, but it also presents some challenges. And the primary challenge we got at the moment is workforce. It's people who've got the skills and the experience to actually be able to run our products and our business outside the UK. We're starting to get into paddle tennis. If you're familiar with paddle tennis, we're starting to get into paddle tennis outside the UK, right? So all these are opportunities, but they also come with problems. Who's going to do it? Who's going to run it? How can we keep focus on the main stuff as well as growing other stuff? we haven't got all these different departments to do all the stuff that we need to do. A lot of it comes back on people like me. Yeah? It's a challenge. So we've got to be able to grow, but at the same time keep focus and keep making money. We also had some difficult moments. Okay, I'll tell you about 2 difficult moments. One of our young coaches was shot dead in Florida. Absolute true. Okay, I got a phone call one Sunday night from Rich. Okay, about 9:30. I thought it's a bit weird, Sunday night. I'd spoken to him a couple of hours earlier. I thought, what's he want now? He doesn't normally ring on a Sunday night. Okay, but this time. So I picked it up and he said, have you heard what's happened? No. Why, what's happened? He said, anyway. So one of our coaches got shot dead, right? So I went into the university on the Monday morning. I've never seen anything like it, right? We arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning and the car park was full of press, right? ITV were there, Channel 4 were there, BBC were there, Al Jazeera were there, Sky News was there. They were all there, right? And we're like, what the? So anyway, we got out of the car, went in, locked the doors, and we thought, right, we've got to put something together here because this is going to get out of hand, right? So really quickly, we had to think. The first thing we've got to do is we can't just go and talk to these people because otherwise it's going to get out of control. So we very quickly put together like a statement, an official statement, and talk about having to work quickly, right? And we got this stuff out quickly, and we said, look, we're not going to make any comments, we're not doing any interviews. Right, this is the statement. And anyway, from there, this put us back probably 6 months, if I'm honest. Partly because a lot of the young coaches, as they were at the time, were good friends. So the amount of people